Okay, cool. Welcome everyone to another episode. I'm here with Cordell Charles this time. Looking forward to this chat. Cordell, we always like to just dive straight in and get going. We don't waste any time. So why don't you give us a quick intro, quick background as to where you work, what job you're doing, and where you're from as well.
All right, hi there. My name is Cordell Charles, as I just mentioned. I'm 26 years old, and I'm a junior software developer at a company called Sanger Institute, or Wellcome Sanger Institute.
Yeah. And I'm very fortunate enough to be collaborating nicely with the Wellcome Sanger Institute, and I'm thrilled to be doing that because of the important work that they do, the work that I'm still trying to understand now. So why don't you give us an overview for anyone who's not familiar with kind of what exactly they do, what they do, and that will help people understand the conversation, I think.
Yeah, it's not an easy one to understand, and I've been there for a few months, and I'm still learning new things every day. But what I've gathered so far is that the mission back when they started was to understand the human body and the entire genomic structure of the human body. And they actually got all of that data on a computer, on a system, and it took a lot of data, a lot of processing power. But after that goal was achieved, they moved over to genomic surveillance for microbes, viruses, anything to do with impacting the human body that makes us weak. So, for instance, COVID and malaria. I'm working on the malaria team. What their goal is, they don't create the vaccines. They're not really behind all of that work. It's more about understanding what we're dealing with. So, um, you get, let's say COVID, for instance, you get the virus and you sort of understand the genetic makeup, download down to a system all that data, and how it impacts the body as well. So we take the cases, the positive results, the impacts of those results, analyze all that data, and understand. The goal is to understand what makes it up and what it's weak to, what it's susceptible to, so that the people who then develop the vaccines, we pass that data on, and they can actually then create the vaccines. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of work, a lot of data to go through, and that's really the main part about it. But I'm still understanding it myself. I've worked on malaria, and as you may have heard, they've come through with a recent vaccine, but the fight is still not over really. So that's what they're saying. It's like it's progress, but because viruses can change in any given way without even us understanding, it's about prevention as well as fighting it as well. So yeah, that's as best as I can get it, if I'm honest with you. But
That was really good. That was really good, and it obviously such important work, right? For you, you're at the beginning of your career, but you're getting to contribute to an organization that ultimately is helping to protect us from infectious diseases. And we've obviously seen, we're sat here in 2021 now, so we've obviously seen the impact that can have on the world, right? And so such an important time as well for you to be helping that organization. So as I understand it, research sort of taking on data to understand how viruses affect the genome, and then that helps inform things like vaccines and public health and so on. So that was a really, really good explanation. I'm glad I've got you here to help me with that. And then, so in terms of, the environment then as a place to work, what's that been like for you then so far?
It's been incredible. It's like a campus. If any of you have been to university, that's not to say you have to, but it is like a university campus. It's very free, it's very laid back. They do take the restrictions of COVID safety to full standard as well. So I've been going on campus once a week, every Thursday, just to meet the team and mingle, because you do work better in a team. But it's what you expect from like a really sciencey place. I don't, it sounds a bit like childish, but when you see on TV those places with like those labs and people wearing lab coats and all that, they've got those sort of environments there. But it's a really nice, well campus, like really well designed for the staff. So they've got on-site restaurants, on-site cafes, lots of chilled areas, and really, really, really big like walk-in and like natural reserve area. And they do actually allow the public to walk through, but obviously not come on site where they're doing the work. But no, it's really well designed. It's just really awesome place to work, and the people around are also just as friendly. Even though you have to keep your 2 meter distance, it's not that case where you feel that restricted that you might as well stay home. It's more a nice environment for the people who are there.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. So it sounds like quite a nice transition from university then, right? If you still got that campus vibe, you're holding on to the university memories in some ways, I guess that sounds quite nice.
Yeah, not to say that we drink on the job. I don't want to get that. There's none of that.
Awesome, but like a really sort of nice, friendly culture. Because if it's one of your first few jobs, I think coming out of university, that's something you always think about, right? So
Oh yeah, 100%. You can get like some people are just chucked in from one industry to another, and like they'll go from the freedom of university and then get chucked into a job where they don't have any freedom at all, where they're working these long hours, going home at night, back to sleep up in the morning, and doing the same thing in reverse. I make the commute from London to Cambridge, and I still don't even feel that way. It's a really laid back and open place. And when I go in and I meet my team, really funny people, bringing cakes, bringing cookies. Like we're really chilled. Have our serious meetings and we get the work done. But they want you to know it's a place where you can also feel free to just be yourself and learn and develop your own skills as well as working in a team.
sounds good. Sounds good. I'm waiting for my cookies. Maybe next time we'll do this in person.
Yeah, I might have
I
to
can do
just
this
eat
from
it
the
as
institute.
well.
That sounds good to me. And then, so yeah, what I often found when me or myself or anyone in my team, they talk to individuals about relocating or jobs in different areas, they're always sort of reluctant initially, you know, and especially so the Sanger Wellcome Institute, if we haven't mentioned, is based in Cambridge. And often you get a lot of people in London and it's like, oh, do I want to relocate? You know, I've got my friends here, my base is here. What would you say to that person, and how have you found it? Because you're from London, obviously, and
Mhm.
you sort of mix yourself between the campus and working from home. So, what would you say on that topic?
It's a difficult one. Each person has their own personal reasons. I haven't moved over there fully myself as due to personal circumstances, but I didn't want to sway from the team and the team's goal and working in a team, so I make the effort to go up there. I do know a lot of people who've moved, and their advice, well, my advice would be, of course, follow your heart and don't be afraid of the movement itself because you'll get settled in. It's not the moving is not a problem for most people. And the company, the people there are, you'll make friends. And the Cambridge is really close by, and Cambridge is like it's a slightly smaller London, but it's still quite vibrant as a place. Really nice place to be, very peaceful. Got a lot of social activities, so you won't be bored there. The hard part is just taking a step, like with anything. I mean, you have this sort of I had this sort of feeling at university, you know, you're gonna move out to a new place. Can you afford it? Is the rent gonna be? What's the this, that, and the other? Will you make friends? Will you be lonely? It's same sort of troubles, but once you make the move, you never really regret it. And that's the same here. But don't feel forced to either. Sanger is also very open, and they're very driven to helping people find what suits them. And I have people on my team as well who are in London who haven't moved, who also make the commute, who also work from home. So it's not a case of be deterred by this. Ideally, you'd want to work with the team and be there, but um, it's not like they're strict with it. They're very open, and I think if you communicate that, then you'll find what's best for you, and they'll find what's best for you, really. So I wouldn't let that stop you from applying because it didn't stop me, and I've never regretted it.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. That's great to hear, and it's great to hear how flexible they are as well. You know,
Mm.
in listening to people and their personal circumstances. And yeah, I would just say, because I think I hear this a lot about, especially people from London or some of the big cities, and
Yeah.
hesitant to move out. And I think in a way, in the early part of your career, it can be really good because you can find new opportunities that maybe other people aren't looking at because
Yeah.
they think of the same thing. And you know, you can always come back to that your city after you have a bit of an adventure because there's a lot of
So,
opportunities. There's a lot out there in the UK outside of just the big cities as well. So or just outside of London. And so in terms of the application process, so we've probably got people listening now, you know, recent graduates or maybe current students, or maybe you didn't go to university as well, and you might be now interested in working at the Sanger Wellcome Institute. What was the application process like then? And yeah, share that your experience of that, and then we'll go through some of your advice as well for
yeah.
each step.
So, very different. Uh, if they're applying for a developer role, so to go through that a bit, just for those who aren't really applying for developer role, the typical thing to do is you'll apply for the role, you'll get a call, usually from HR, they'll talk to you about what you want to do, and then from there it'll be talk to a lead developer, and then meet the team, and then have a test. So there's like 4 or 5 stages with a lot of developer interviews. Sanger didn't take that approach at all. Um, they well, my interview was to have 3 people, one in a lead dev in a team, or the person you'll be working on, the business system lead, and there was one other person who sorry, I forgot his role. That's quite bad of me. But they basically all this. It seems quite daunting when you hear it, but you have an interview with all three, and essentially they give you questions of what they're looking for and ask you about yourself. So you'll get technical questions. It can be literally in a technical sense of, okay, what if you have this? What does this do? Or it would be more team-related questions. Tell me about an experience you've had in a team, or even the simple questions of why you want to work here and what drew you to this sort of thing. And at first I was quite confused by it, but once I joined the team, I actually understood it. And it's more about they're trying to find the person who fits the team, but it's not about their, of course, experience counts, but it's not always about just the experience. They want to find someone who fits the team and who can develop themselves and the team and so the overall end goal. They want to find someone who's driven to the fight towards COVID or anything like malaria. It's more about what we do in terms of genomic surveillance as opposed to the individual themselves. And I think that's, instead of having just long-winded interviews where you'll just have thousands of answers to check and this, that, and the other, they're more about finding the right candidate. So it's just a one-stage interview for a developer, really.
Wow, so that's nice and quick then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really want to show, I guess, your personality, why you're passionate about that fight, and why the role's right for you, I guess. So,
Yeah.
and I remember, so we had a little chat about your CV and your cover letter as well, and I think your CV was really good. But I remember that's something I mentioned to you, right, in the cover letter of like, think about the USP of the organization that you're going for. Like they are literally, doing one of the most important fights that you could be fighting, and you have a chance to be part of that. So to not bring that out in your cover letter, you're missing a trick a little bit, I think.
Yeah, no, big thank you to you about that, for the way.
No problem at all. So just on that initial step then, what would be your advice for the CV and the cover letter stage to get that initial interview?
Yeah, so like, as Toby mentioned, the CV, I mean, most people watching have probably seen a million of them. Detail the CV, keep the important parts first. You want to catch the reader's attention, I guess, if you want to go into deep detail about that. So I put things like my technical skills quite at the top and my personal statement and stuff like that. Of course, then have your employment history, but keep it relevant to the role, I would say, as much as you can. So a little bit about my background I did mention was that I don't have a typical developer background. Apologies if this is going off topic a bit, but I did my undergrad in geography, and I studied at the University of Hertfordshire, got my BSc in that, and it was a subject I enjoyed, no regrets there. Started the working world in London, started the technical industry, and I thought, okay, cool, I'm enjoying this a bit more. And I sort of taught myself coding there, went through the whole drive there, trying to get employed. But to skip all that out, I then did my master's in computer science, and I had to basically tailor my CV, mentioning my university first, but how my work in the technical industry relates to not being quite new to the engineering environment. So it's more about relatable skills, and that's what you should do in the cover letter as well. So give a brief background about yourself, why you're obviously applying and what you're looking for in a role. But with the Sanger one that I did a little bit differently with the advice of Toby as well was I related my skills to them, in the engineering side, of course. So what relatable skills within as an engineer do you have, but why you would be suited to a team, because you need to sort of talk about how you could help in terms of genomic surveillance. I don't really have that background in terms of genomic research. However, I do have the sort of necessary skills in terms of working as a team to achieve a higher goal. Because my previous work was in intellectual property, so we were dealing with the counterfeit fight for counterfeit goods across the world, and using technology to solve that problem for many brands. And I would just sort of related that in terms of the fight. There's a lot of data to process. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and it might seem like a mountain to climb, but at the end of the day, if you keep at it, you can solve these problems. And I put that forward towards Sanger in terms of my interest. I want to be part of this fight because COVID has been hitting me that whole year, so I know the full effects of that. It was a disaster for everyone and everyone, and if I can attach my name to, not necessarily trying to cure, but having the data that supplied those, that's good enough for me. And it was good enough for them, and I'm proud to have been in that.
Yeah, no, I'm super proud of you as well in joining that team. So and you said a lot of powerful things there. So don't really know where to start, but you really sort of, yeah, as you said, communicated your skills to let them know how you can help them. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with
Yeah.
both, well, with everything, with the CV, with the cover letter, and the interview. And it's just about taking whatever experience that you have, and that might be informal, it might be working part-time, it might be caring, it might be volunteering, it might be university projects, it could be
Mhm.
anything. It might be full-time work, as you said, and then taking that, understand what skills that's given you and how that could help them. Because let's be honest, as an employer, I've hired recently, and I have to look at, what can this person do for me?
Mhm.
Yes, I want someone who's passionate, really wants to be here, but also I want to see in the cover letter, let's be honest, I want to see how you can help me. So,
Exactly.
don't forget to bring that out in your application. And then you also thought about, okay, I know how the order historically works, but I think I could get ahead, or I think my USP is the skills that I've developed that's going to be relevant for them. So you
Mhm.
can have that on your top of your CV. You don't necessarily need to follow the same order, the same format as everyone else. Just think, okay, if an employer picks up my CV, what's the thing that they're going to see, which is going
Mhm.
to get them to invite me to interview. So I thought that's quite interesting that you said that there. And then also, so you say you taught yourself coding before the masters. That's quite
Mhm.
interesting. How do you do that? What were the methods for?
Um, it's networking is a massive thing. I have friends and family around me who are quite driven people, but people who are also developers. Um, and so when I had joined my first job, I had a friend who was a developer at the company. I first started working in Starling Bank as an intern, and he basically said to me, it's not an easy field to get into. If you're gonna want to do, you have to put in the work to get in. It's not a case of I'm just gonna say anyone can be a developer, but you also got to put the work in. But he referred me to online courses, so I started with Udemy, moved over to Coursera, and I also did EDX. And I just took basic courses, learning how to code, learning what different languages do, different technologies and stuff like that. Um, I got lucky to join an intellectual property company called Inco Pro to basically join the engineering team as research and development. So I wasn't an engineer then, but I was doing research and development within the engineering team. So I learned about Scrum processes, Sprint, and how the functions of an engineering team work there. And while I was working in there, I was still teaching myself how to code. Um, and it just went on from there. My manager was a data scientist, so he gave me tips. He was like a mentor to me as well. So it was all the little things, just picking at it to sort of get myself familiar with the side of it and coding. And then obviously doing your own projects, building websites, scrapers, small things, and just adding them to a GitHub portfolio. But it wasn't enough for me. And like when COVID-19 hit, the pandemic ruined really everyone's life, of course. But I got made redundant at that time. Um, no fault of anyone's, but that's just the fact of life and the way you go. And from there, I just decided to dive straight into development and do whatever it takes to become a software developer. And I taught myself, I kept teaching myself, building bigger and bigger projects, and going for the interviews. You have to apply. If you don't ask, you don't get. But I wasn't getting at that time, and you just got to keep going. Can't take it personally, it's just one of those things. I could blame the pandemic, I could blame anything, but it's a hard getting a job in these times, and you just got to keep the fight up. But after I saw I wasn't getting any traction, my mind just goes, okay, what can I do better? And my mother is a great inspiration to me as well, because she's a PhD in mathematics, doing all sorts. So she's completed the education level, and she said to me, "Why don't you try doing your masters?" And I was like, okay, cool. I applied to universities. I've been at university for some time, but I applied to Birkbeck University of London, and had to take a technical test, which thankfully, because of my training and self-teaching, I actually was accustomed to, and got into the masters. And the reason for doing that was not to learn development and coding further. It was more about the foundations of being a software developer. Um, you need to learn your ethical theories, why we do what we do, what the good and bad side of it. You need to learn the theory of computation, Turing's machines, algorithms, stuff like that. Computer systems, hardware and software. There's two parts to it. there's 2 coding parts. There's also databases is in itself is its own module. So that opened up this whole new world to me essentially. And I was like, excuse my message going off there. That was
Nice.
like a whole new like world to discover. There's more to life than just coding. There's an entire world behind your computer really, and that's what that kind of opened me up to. And it just sort of knitted everything together that I really needed to do. And that was also what got me better responses in terms of applying for jobs as well. But that's not to say to everyone to go to uni and get a master's, because as you said, university is not for everyone, and I would never deter someone like that by saying you have to do it. I did it because it worked for me, but I know plenty of people who did it and became junior developers based off of courses and just teaching themselves as well. Doing online courses does work. So my advice is keep fighting. Just if you're in a spot of trouble, or if you just feel like you're not really getting anywhere, keep improving. Just keep doing what you need to do to improve. Courses, there are 3-month, what do you call them? Intensive courses that are there designed there to just in 3 months give you like a school full-time schools guide in terms of learning how to code and stuff, and it works for some people and they find the right jobs from it. The last thing I say is networking. Like I said, people on LinkedIn, you might think that they're like robots and stuff when they message you and have opportunities for you. But I cannot tell you stress enough how much you should actually just listen to them if they are messaging you, because at the end of the day, that's what Toby did here. He messaged me and said, like, there's an opportunity here. I've looked at your profile and I think you have the skills for a place. And normally some people just be like, he's a robot, ignore it, you know. But I cannot stress how much of a great opportunity that was that he opened for me, because he spoke to me, looked at my CV, said, cool, I got this job for you, but let me just see your CV and the cover letter, see if I can help you. Wrote a cover letter. He told me to detail a bit more, change a few parts up, and he got me that interview for Sanger. And that's where I was able to show Sanger what I've learned and what I can do. So I'm sorry I've been waffling on a bit, but yeah, this is an important thing. Your network, keep on fighting and study, I guess. It's just keep on fighting.
No problem. That was incredible. You know, that's why we do this podcast, I think, because you know, historically, you need to know someone, you need to meet someone, you definitely should network, like you said,
Yeah.
but you're able to give people this knowledge that they can just listen to or find like easily now, and it's really going to help them. And I appreciate your kind words as well, and that's what we want to do with our community, you know, help people with their CVs, with the cover letters, with their interviews, and help them get jobs. So that's exactly why we're here. So I'm glad you found that valuable. But yeah, it's funny how you know, just hearing your story, like everything just connects nicely, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like this compounding effect of you sort of keep on pushing, keep on learning, and you're working in the space, so you couldn't get a job doing the actual tech in the beginning,
Yeah.
but you got a role that was sort of tangential to that.
Mhm.
And then you know you taught yourself in the background, and then you went to do your masters, so it's kind of like it just all builds up over time.
Yeah.
And like you said, what I really love about what you said is like a lot of people struggled, obviously, or are still struggling to get jobs now, even pandemic aside. You know, it's difficult to get these competitive roles, but you were able to just sort of keep going forward, right? Just keep learning and trying new things. And I really like the ownership that you take on. So it's so easy, I think, to blame external factors at times, but then just look at yourself and think, okay, how much better can I get? How much more competitive can I get my CV? And without having to ask someone for something, without just purely learning on Udemy and Coursera and all these platforms. So I thought that was really interesting. Is there anything else you would add to anyone, because I think mentally you seem to have really managed it really well. Yeah, any other thoughts for anyone who's been going through lots of rejections on how to kind of stick with it, and that it does come out, you can eventually get through it and get the role you want at the end?
Yeah, I don't mean to sound a bit cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. It's you have to keep fighting. It's a difficult world we live in, and if you don't try, you don't get. Like it's the best way to go about it. I had, like you said, many factors that have just knitted things together and have been really well placed. But I've had lots of moments where I was like, do I just not try? Maybe just do something that I studied my undergrad in, or find a job role that fits the same title as what I've been doing. But one of the best things that I had that supported me this whole way was like my family, of course, but every developer I spoke to along the way at work or through networking said the same thing. They said never look at software development as a job that you need this criteria to get. Anyone can do it. Anyone and everyone can do it. It's just more about what you put in. It's if what you put in, the computer will give back, you know. And that's what kind of kept me fighting. Those moments where it got low, where I was receiving tons of rejections. Like honestly, I was getting loads. I would spend days, weeks, months applying to jobs. I've gone through LinkedIn through and throughout and felt like I've gone through the entire thing because I was seeing the same roles that I've already applied for. And there are even some jobs still replying now saying you do not fit that category so long ago, such a long waiting period. They say the same thing. It was just, oh, you're too junior, you're too inexperienced. We're looking for someone who just fits this more. And you can't really take it personally. It's the way the job market is. It's not the best situation, but don't let it get to you personally, and just use that as a way of, okay, cool. Well, you need this, so let me try to do this to make myself better. If you have people around you or in the role or in roles that at that level that you're seeking, ask them what they did. Ask them what they do. I was quite lucky to have a friend who's a developer. So I would often ask him, "Oh, what did you do?" And he would say things like, "Oh, I just built small projects." And I'd say, "Well, what did you build?" And you say, "Anything, like anything you want. If you want to be a web developer, build a website. If you want to do online scraping, which is basically gathering data from the internet and placing it somewhere else, you can find technologies for that. If you want to do AI, start learning the theory about it, so how it goes in terms of the book sense and how it's gone from history, and then work your way up. Try many different things, make yourself as sparse as like one as possible, because I think what my manager also, I had my 3-month review recently as well, and what my manager complimented me about was, he said he liked how my drive is to just keep on being better. So it's not about just doing what you need to do, it's just what you need to do to progress. And that'll be my advice for anyone. If you're hitting a low point, just stand up, dust it off, go at it again, because there will be a turning point. And I went through this I did my year of uni in COVID, but I've been applying for this job since 2018. So it's a graft. I'll tell you that. But as is anything, and there is a turning point, so you just got to keep it up.
Damn, it is a graft, isn't it? It's tough,
Yeah.
man. I think I need to have you on here every week. No, that's so good to hear it from you, and it just sounds like, yeah, you worked so hard, and it is so tough, isn't it? Like I remember you get a lot of rejections, and you just get so boring after a while. Like you just get so repetitive doing those applications, and it's demoralizing. And but it just, as you say, as time goes by, it just compounds, right? And you get a bit more experience, you know, with these free courses or doing things yourself, which I think a lot of people tend to overlook. They're just sort of stuck in the hamster wheel of doing more and more applications, whereas it's better just to stop sometimes and do, you know, marketing course if you want to do marketing. You know, Facebook, they've got a load of courses. Google, you know, Coursera, you know, tech ones even easier probably, right? Google, they've got tons of courses for all this stuff, and that shows to employers that you're interested more so than someone who hasn't bothered to take the time to do that, and it shows them that you're developing some skills as well. So that makes sense. So yeah, I guess anyone who's going through that, just stick at it really and do them sort of gradually together. Keep going with your applications, but then sometimes stop. It's fine to have a pause and have a break, right? Like have a week off, 2 weeks off if you need to, because it's a lot to marathon.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that as well. That's a good point. After my redundancy, I didn't just jump straight in the wagon. Like I'm not just some machine who just completely just cycled this out. It was I think I had like a month off. It was a hard hit, you know. COVID and redundancy was a knockback and a half for me really, because I spent 2 years at a company that I was heavily invested in, and some people have gone even longer. So definitely take a break. And I did even between my application processes and in university as well. Like when Christmas came, I took that time off. You know, I was learning a completely new skill doing a master's, but if you don't recharge, you drain. And you'll sort of see that effect happening in terms of your applications as well. So if you feel your applications are coming out the same and you're not really applying for the job because of what it's tailoring, or what it's asking for, then you might need a break. You might need a step back moment to sort of re-energize and rethink or reanalyze how you're going to go about your complete application process again. But yeah, the free online courses, do not overlook them. Free or paid for as well. Some of them are paid for, but they also are worth it. They provide you with a certificate, and it gives you a timeline of events of what you've been doing as well. So it's also about convincing employers that you do put in the work. And if they can see that you spent time on a 50-hour course practicing your skills, then who are they to say that you're not someone who's worthy of taking the opportunity?
Absolutely, that's the type of person I'd want to hire. So yeah,
Exactly.
and investing in yourself, that's probably the best investment you'll ever make, isn't it? So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, no, really good. And then the last takeaway was just don't do it by yourself, right? You should really lean on each other. You should have like a group of 2, 3 of you to practice interviews, to look at each other's CVs and all that kind of thing. And that makes it less stressful, even just other people to talk to.
Yeah.
And then ideal if you can find someone doing what you want to do. And with that community, I want to hopefully make that a bit easier by bringing lots of people together. So yeah, watch this space for that. So then, yeah, this has been fantastic, Cordell. So the last question I wanted to ask was, who out there is your sort of career inspiration? Who do you sort of look to? That could be someone you know, could be a famous person, could be anyone really. Just love to hear your where you get your inspiration from, I guess.
Yeah, it was a hard one. I don't have a famous tag straight off the bat. Like I guess people would typically say, oh, Elon Musk, because he does like his thing. But mine is it's quite a few groups of people. You gotta give respect to those who are close to you. So e.g. you and my mother as well, who's been really on the ball there. Very supportive, because she had to do a lot to get to where she is. So it was quite an inspiration to look at what she did and follow. I used to listen to Gary Vee a lot as well. Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know how to say his name properly. I don't know if you know him.
That's right. Yeah.
He's like a philanthropist, and he's always posting videos on Instagram about just, you don't have to be the sort of person to get where you want to do. But his is more entrepreneurship based. But his meaning can still be applied across the board, really. He's more about you've got to make yourself do it, but he's also on the vibe of, you don't have to be like a 20-year-old and have everything figured out. You never do, and you never have to be. You can be 30, 40, 50 years old and want to start your career again. It's just up to you if you want to do it. And don't think you have to follow like a typical university route, or don't think you have to be 26 and have everything figured out. Because I mean, I thought at 23 coming out of uni that I was in a good spot, but I'm in a completely new 3 years later, I was like in a completely new area. So he was someone I listened to. And just your networks, when you find people who are also like-minded and in a similar boat, you like you said, you feed off each other. And those are the people you want around you for this sort of pandemic. You don't want to take this alone, because while you do have to be independent enough to work on yourself and your own projects, you don't need to stay alone to sort of do these things, because you find that we're all often in the same boat, and we're all often trying to achieve the same goal. And if anyone's also, as much as yourself, going to push you to do something, it will be those who are also fighting the same fight. So an example would be, I never actually met any of my university classmates, but we have a WhatsApp group chat, because I had to take my master's in COVID, so we didn't get to do classes together. But we would all just message on WhatsApp, laugh, chat, talk about the work, and just boost each other up, even in the sense of like having homework and just be like, who understands this question? And everyone goes no. But we all sort of like bounce ideas off each other and then find the commonality to achieve a goal in that small sense and in the wider sense.
Awesome. That was great to hear. And yeah, big shout out then to your mom in that case, and Gary Vee as well. He's a good person to check out for a lot of motivation, I think, and it's probably the reason why I'm doing so much content, because it's just a great way to reach a lot of people. So
give yourself on the back as well.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, thanks so much, Cordell. And anyone who's interested in joining you at Sanger Wellcome Institute, incredible place to work. There's going to be opportunities live as you're watching this or listening to this, I'm sure. So just head over to wearediverse.io and find those opportunities there. and feel free to reach out to myself or one of my team members, and we'll try and help you as well at joining Cordell there. So yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure this is going to be hugely valuable for a lot of people.
We'll hope so. Hopefully it helps a lot. Good luck everyone as well.
Cool. Awesome. Let's leave it there.